I think it without being too over dramatic, I think it's completely changed my life.
That was the voice of Irish international Ross Adair, who just a month ago scored his maiden T20 International 100 against South Africa in Abu Dhabi, as the boys in emerald green claimed a memorable 10-run victory. The 30-year-old was playing his 10th T20 International since making his debut against Zimbabwe in Harare at the start of 2023. It capped a crazy 3 years for the older of Hollywood's Adair brothers, who made his Northern Cricket Union Premier League debut in 2020 for Civil Service North, having moved from his boyhood club at Seapark that winter to see if he was up to the standard. It wasn't long before he was the most highly sought-after signature on the domestic scene, with his blistering batting at the top of the innings, damaging many bowling figures, not to mention the odd windscreen in the car park. He's made 2 T20 hundreds for his province, the Northern Knights, catapulting his name onto the selectors' radar as someone who offers genuine power at the top of the order. I spoke to Ross shortly after he returned from a month playing for Adelaide University in South Australia, and we covered a range of topics from how his game has evolved over the last 5 years, to the lessons he learned from his previous life as a professional rugby player, his mental approach in the middle, and what he'd still like to achieve in the game. Intriguingly, Ross has made a recent change to his life off the pitch, which he says has had a huge impact on his performance. And we kicked off by asking about his memories from that famous night in Abu Dhabi.
My girlfriend had actually messaged me. She was over in Abu Dhabi at the time, and I'd said, like, what happens if I score 100 tonight and all this kind of stuff, and she was like, you are going to score 100 tonight. And then 6 hours later, or 6.5 hours later, I'd done it. So I don't know. I guess there's sort of wee things like that throughout the day, and then sort of just walking out, getting another chance after the first T20. Yeah, it was very, very special, and something that I'll remember for a long, long time.
So if you can recall much about the innings,
Yeah.
tactically, did you get a real feeling for how they were trying to bowl to you?
Yeah, well, I think uh, I think they sort of realized not to. They didn't want to go to that step hit, just over the top of the stumps, because I was going to try and hit it out of the ground. So there was a lot of trying to tuck me up, and then they actually went wide, a lot of wide slower balls and a lot of wide trying to hit that wide filler ball, which then I have to then change. I can't stand on the same spot like I would. I shuffled over then to off stump to make their margin for error that wee bit smaller. So if they did go to that wide hole or that wide slowy, hang on, the it was straighter to me then, so I could actually get a bit of bat on it. So yeah, it was just trying to adjust to those wee things, and that's something that I've changed in my game for sure, because um as you go up the levels, lads aren't just gonna bowl at you anymore. Like, they're thinking of how to get you out, and you need to be able to, or willing to, take risks to change it up or to change their view of what they're bowling at. So yeah, I guess it's a good tactical battle. It's what I'm thinking about now is, if they bowl straight at me and I hit them for 4 or 6, like, where are they going next? Are they gonna go short it? Are they gonna try and hit me in the head? Are they gonna go fuller and try and hit me on the toes? If they go wide and I cut them for 4, are they gonna they're going to come straight at me, and they might overcorrect, and I might get another boundary away if I shuffle across and flick them, backward to square or something. So these are the wee tactical things that I've been thinking about now, rather than just standing still at the wicket and trying to hit things for 4 and 6. I'm trying to think a couple of balls ahead, to try and change their view and get a few more boundaries away.
That makes sense. So you've now scored 3 T20 hundreds, 1 for Ireland and 2 for the Knights. What is it about the format that brings out the best in you?
I think it's just, to be honest, I think it's just pure freedom. Uh, you've known me for a long time now, and um, I think one of the reasons why I can be so dangerous at times is because I've zero fear in getting out, uh, which lets me have all the freedom in the world to play shots that I'm good at. I think it'd be different if I was trying to execute shots that I don't play or don't practice. If I get out playing those shots, then I'm I'm gonna get shouted at, or I'll be annoyed at myself. But you know, if I'm getting out, trying to hit a full ball over the bowler's head for 6, it's on the day. That's just an execution thing on the day. And 9 times out of 10, it does go for 6 or 4. So it's just knowing, my game really, and I'm trying to execute it as best as I can.
And so with that, I mean, the fact that, you spent a long time in your as an adult playing rugby, not, and with that as your priority, not having the opportunity really to play a hell of a lot of cricket,
Mm,
your, relative ascension to playing for Ireland has been pretty quick when you consider everything.
yeah.
So how's your game evolved over the last sort of 5 years?
Oh, where was it? 5 years ago. Uh, 2019.
Playing for Holywood, were you?
Yeah, I think I had just finished playing for 2019. Yeah, because I moved to civil a year after that. Um, I guess I don't know. The only reason I'd moved to civil was because I wanted to try the Premier League. I didn't really think it was gonna go as far as it has. I was just I was just looking to move to try and prove to myself really that I was good enough for the Premier League. So my game, I think, over the last 5 years has, I'm not the same player. Obviously, I have the same sort of foundation in that, I wanted to hit the ball hard, but I'm thinking about things now. I'm thinking about what the bowler's doing, um, different scenarios. Yeah, so to be honest, it's one of those things where it did happen. It's all happened pretty quickly. Uh, I played for the emerging Knights in 2020, and then I played for Ireland in 2023. So like those 3 years are all very it's all a bit of a blur, to be honest. Uh, just happened very quickly, and um, I don't know whether part of it, well, I think probably was because I had the rugby background. I'd been in a professional environment. I'd played in front of crowds. I've handled pressure before just on the rugby pitch. So I don't know whether they maybe thought, this guy has all the off-field capabilities of being just a professional on the whole. Um, can he can he hit a ball? Yes. Um, let's see if we can get him in. So yeah, it all happened fairly quickly, but I don't think I wasn't just like I scored 100 for the Knights in the T20. Um, I got a couple of scores, so it wasn't just like oh, let's chuck him in, see what happens. Like I had to score runs first to even be in with a shout. So yeah, no, it was a very interesting or um sort of short, what seemed like a short amount of time, but in those 3 years, there have been a lot of hard work and stuff put in nets and scoring runs on Saturdays for club and then scoring runs domestically as well. So um yeah, it's been a fun ride, to be fair, and I've enjoyed every second of it. Like, so yeah.
So if we think about your training regime, um, say in 2020 when you're training at Stormont there,
Yep.
how is it different now in terms of how you approach your training sessions? Say when you're training with Ireland or even when you're training with Jonty and the Knights. Are you more methodical with planning your trainings? How are your trainings physically different? Are you more focused on honing certain parts of your game more than others, or what's changed?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I found a lot of success over the winter with basic underarm drills. Uh, and then a bit of the machine, but a lot of it was underarms. Um, you know, pull shots, drives outside the off stump, trying to go square through point rather than trying to muscle everything through cover or extra cover. Um, so like I obviously I've added that to my training, and that underarms. I probably would have gone in before and someone had asked me to do underarm throws, and I'm like, I'm not doing underarm throws. They're like, why would I have someone underarming me in bowling machine balls? Like, what's the point in that? But I think Gary Wilson was obviously, he was like, nah, you're gonna I'm gonna throw underarms at you, and I was like, all right then. And then before I knew it, like I was then able to face the machine or face bowlers in the nets and play shots that I'd not been able to play before because of these underarm drills. And some of the best batters in the world do underarm drills. If it's good enough for them, it's probably good enough for me. So that's something I've added to training. Um, yeah, and then I guess as a T20 player, once I go into the net, I guess it's trying to recreate a match scenario for me. So like they want me to try and hit my first ball for six. So I walk in and I try and given that I know what the Jordanstown indoor facilities like, you're not going to get much off the surface. I laterally, there's maybe a tiny bit of swing, but I'm trying to line that ball up, and I'm trying to hit it for six. The first 4 or 5 balls, I'm just trying to get away for what I perceive as a boundary. So I guess it's having that match scenario then built into your game as well. Because then when I know I go out to the middle of an actual game, I sort of know what I'm trying to do, and I've had the practice of hitting a ball for a six or a four, um, straight away. So that's probably another thing about it.
Brilliant. You touched on it before, but given your background in rugby, what lessons have you taken from those experiences which you're finding are now relevant to you in a cricket career?
I guess it's just, a part of the rugby training was the gym, and I loved the gym uh, when I was playing rugby, and that really hasn't changed from since I moved to cricket. And I think it's a huge part of the game, and maybe part of the game that people playing cricket don't um, maybe take for granted a wee bit. But for me, it's massively important, even just for sorry, injury prevention and stuff now. You know, I'm getting old. I'm not quite your vintage yet, but uh, I think being in the gym and working on things keeps me fit. Make sure I'm not picking up any niggles, and it means my batting can I can really focus on my batting without having to worry about anything like that. Uh, but yeah, it's rugby was a massive part of my life, and um, one thing that I'll be some people because some people would say like, why did you not just go straight to cricket? And I could have gone straight to cricket, but Iggy dropped me from the under-19 World Cup team, and pretty much forced me to go down the rugby route. So it's pretty much all his fault. But no, I wouldn't, looking back on it, I wouldn't change anything, because I guess the professionalism then was sort of drilled into you. And if you weren't professional, then you were gone or you were chopped. So, like, you had to be professional, and you had to keep turning up every day, and things weren't going to go your way. You were going to get dropped. You were going to play. You weren't going to have a good game every time. So, you had to fight your way back into teams, and you weren't just going to you're not going to get picked because you're a good lad, or you're happy and you smile all the time. Like, you need to do the work that way. So I guess bringing that in, um, to keep that with my cricket too, has sort of motivated me and driven me on a wee bit to fight for a spot, I guess. And uh, yeah, so rugby massively important to my cricket career.
You touched on it there, but obviously you're a strong bloke. And when it comes to the power that you have in your game, it certainly sets you apart from others. So,
Yeah.
when did that power really come to your game? Was that post your time in rugby, or did you have an element of it beforehand?
Uh, I'm not sure. I think when I was at Holywood, I wanted to hit the ball hard. I think, yeah, I wanted to hit the ball hard, but I think you can go to the gym as much as you want, but you need to want to hit the ball hard as well as hit the ball hard. It's weird. So, like, um, I guess if you have the intent to hit the ball hard, then more times than not, if you obviously you need to time it, head still, steady base, all that good stuff. Um, but if you get that right and you have the intent to hit the ball hard, and the more times than not, you will hit it hard. But you go to the gym and have no intent to hit the ball hard. It doesn't always, you won't really hit the ball hard then. So, um, but I always wanted to hit the ball hard, because the harder you hit it, the harder it is to catch. Like, more times than not, you would hit the ball hard and you get dropped, or maybe you don't want to hit the ball hard, or you don't go at it as hard and you get caught. And I was just like, I don't really want to get caught, or I want people to miss field. I want to go through people for four. So yeah, it's one of those things. I think intent is a really important thing, as well as being strong.
Really interesting points there. Um, yeah, I mean it's certainly a big part of your game. I'm interested in when it comes to the gym training. would you be also an advocate of mobility work to make sure that, you know, you're building muscle? It's probably easy to become quite stiff and rigid, which is,
Yeah.
the antithesis of what we need to be as cricketers. So, do you prescribe to, doing yoga or stretching or anything like that alongside?
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably something I didn't do enough of when I was playing rugby. But yeah, no, it's that whole mobility piece is huge now, and um, it's all it's all well and good trying to have big arms, big biceps, but if you're not flexible, and you're gonna struggle. And I not that I struggle, but I'm sore quite a lot of the time. Waking up after a day in the field, or a long old day, even playing club cricket. So then my recovery is more important than not.
So on those rest days, for example, say you've played on a Saturday, do you take any time on a Sunday to stretch or do any type of recovery like that?
Yeah, well, I'd need to. Monday, Monday can be pretty tough if you're not fully recovered. So trying to get as much in as I can. The nutrition side of things is obviously a massive part of my training as well. So I've recently discovered how important sleep is. So sort of over the last few months, I really dialed in on my sleep and got a wee eye mask and all, and um, felt that helped my game massively. So it's something that I'll be trying to get consistently good at. Trying to have decent sleep hygiene, and yeah, something that I probably didn't really think would be as important as it is. Um, but I think it without being too over dramatic, I think it's completely changed my life.
Interesting. So are you after mainly quality of your sleep, or is it actually the length of time that you're in your bedroom, for example?
Probably both. Trying to get as much trying to get as much sleep in as possible, and um, yeah, I guess it's one of those things where um, I didn't think too much about it before, and then when you start doing it and actually focus on it, and you sort of score runs pretty consistently, then you're like, "Ooh, this has made a big difference to me." So
On to mental routine. So it's obviously not news to you, but one of the biggest challenges as a batsman is being able to let go of whatever else is going on around you, whether that be sledging, whether that be maybe, you're in a bad run of form, whether that be in this particular innings, you're struggling for rhythm,
yeah,
whether that be pressures, external pressures off the pitch. When it comes to it, the bowler's running in, you need to have clarity about what you're trying to achieve. A lot of people I've worked with over the years often find those 3 to 4 seconds as a bowler's running in really challenging because all kinds of thoughts can pop into your head, right? So what's your process for managing that and trying to stay as clear as you can?
uh, to be honest, I'm not thinking about a whole pile. I'm just waiting for the ball to get out of his hand so I can watch it. Um, I I think if you're thinking too much, or if I know from my point of view, when I think too much, like I'm toast. So I'd rather just not think at all until the bowler's released the ball. And I could hurt myself quite easily if I think too much. So I I don't think too much. Just watch the ball. I sort of stand on the top of when the bowler's charging in, I'm just saying to myself, stand still, head still, watch the ball, and that's pretty much all I'm thinking. Um, and yeah, like I know a lot of guys who would um it'd be part of the head noise 11, like, so they'd be overthinking and thinking too much, and then the next thing you know, you've snicked off or whatever it is. Uh, so no, I'm not thinking really about anything. Just watch the ball, and that's pretty much it.
You touched on, there are times when it's not so clear for you. So what types of things are going on there, and what can sort of lead you down that path where maybe you don't have that clarity of thought?
Uh, I think for me, whenever whenever I start to dot up or have a few dots, I haven't gotten a boundary away in a while, and I think that's probably when I start thinking, oh, I'm not going that well, or I'm a bit scratchy, because everyone would know me as someone who likes to get away early, likes to get the strike rate up, and likes to get the team off the flyer. And I feel like if I'm not doing that, then um, I'm not doing my job nearly. And then that's maybe when I start overthinking things, and I try too hard to get a boundary, and then I overhit or lose shape when I'm swinging, um, and get out. So there's obviously stuff that I can work on all the time, and it's probably just, rather than, if I am feeling a bit scratchy, just get a one and get off strike and let someone else take over, and then it'll come eventually, or it'll click. Um, so it's trying not to get too flustered at the wicket, I guess. Still, um, and not worrying about if I don't get a boundary away early, or it's just staying there, because I know if I'm there, then if I'm there for 20 overs, I'll have scored a lot, like a fair amount of runs. So it's maybe just trying to keep the head that way for the first wee bit, and then I can do all the damage after that.
So, you've touched on trying to add to your repertoire in terms of certain shots, adding shots to your games. Have there been times over the last, say, 5 years where you've maybe made some tweaks to your game, maybe some technical changes? Have you found that's impacted your ability to be clear at point of release?
Um, yeah, a wee bit. I mean, I saw your post about um someone being technically a 4 out of 10, and what was the other one? Mental was 7, was it?
Yep.
And that's when I felt personally attacked by that post, and I'd said that to you. Um, my technical, technically, I might not be the most, I'm not the prettiest batsman to watch. Like, I'm not a Dom Bradman, or um, one or any other technically great batsman. But whatever I do, it works for me. And I'm not trying to be the most technical person ever. It's about, for me, it's about developing something that can get me through the tough periods, like a basic um defense, or something just to keep me in the game, and then I can punish the bad ball. So I was trying to develop a technique, like a foundation technique of driving through square point, or tucking one off my hip to get me off strike and down the other end, so someone else can face someone that they're maybe more comfortable with, or it's a better matchup for the guy at the non-striker. So um I'm just trying to develop things like that, and then you become instantly harder to bowl at, because this guy knows, if the guy coming in, if he bowls on my hip, he's going to get off strike pretty easily, and then they have to change. So yeah, I was just doing wee small things like that to keep me in the game, so I can punish whatever bad stuff comes down at me.
That makes sense. Good tactical awareness there.
Yeah.
Um, I guess, it's one thing, getting an underarm feed in training, um, and knowing where the ball's going to be and practicing that for sure. But there's not always necessarily the trust once you've done that work that it's now an instinctive shot and you don't need to do anything other than let yourself play to sort of bring it out. So there are times I know dealing with a lot of players in the past where they can almost start to preempt those shots, believing that that's what they need to do in order to bring it out in their game. So have you faced any of those challenges at all, or it's just become quite natural for you?
Um, I think it has just become quite natural. I think when you work so much on a certain shot, it'd be a real shame to go into a game and not believe that you can play that shot after working so hard on it. So I think when I work on something and I get a chance to play the shot in the game, I'm gonna take it. Um, and you never know, like you could hit one straight up, you could snick off, and that's just the way it is. But it's not because you haven't worked on it. It's kind of a bit like it's a wee bit like rehab in that you work so hard on improving or getting your hamstring right, and then you've done the work, but you're still a bit cautious about it, and you're not running as hard as you want to. But it'd be a real shame to think like that because you're worried about picking up another injury. That just sort of says to me that in your own head, you don't think you've done the work. You know, so if you'd definitely done the work and you'd believed you'd done the work, then you would play the shot and not be worried about getting out because you've played the shot so much and you've trained it so much that you fully believe you can pull it off. So um, it's just trying to it's just pure belief in knowing the fact you've done the work to get better at playing in a certain area. Um, like I said, like I wouldn't, I'd not, I've never thought about ramping or anything in the game because again, I would get shouted at. They say, any coach that I've worked with or talked to about ramping, I've said like, you hit the ball an absolute mile straight, so why would you even bother trying to ramp? And I was like, I don't really know, but I would never, I'd play it a couple of times in the nets just for a bit of fun, but I would never play it in a game because I know I haven't done the work on it. So yeah, I think it's just about belief in yourself that you've done the work on it. So just play the shot, and if you get out, you get out, and that's cricket. Like you're supposed to get out. Um, but yeah.
Listening to, the thought you're now putting into your preparation, the time you spent as a professional rugby player, as you're saying, laying a good foundation for basically doing all the extras because it's expected of you. I'm quite intrigued that, you seem to strike a nice balance between, potentially a relaxed mental approach and while also controlling all of your controllables from a tactical, physical perspective. Would that be a fair sort of summary of how you approach things?
Uh, yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not horizontal, but I'd be pretty laid back in that regard. Um, I think a lot of my mental challenge is our like dealing with failure. So, um, like I know that I might come off ideally I would like to come off 1 in 5, but it might be 1 in 8, 1 in 10 for a period. So it's battling myself, I guess, to know that I'm not, you make one score in your first game and then for the next 9 you make nothing. And then it's trying to tell yourself you're not the worst cricketer in the world. So my little mental challenges are that, I'd say. And everyone has their own little mental battles that they go through. But mine, I think, would be trying to remind myself that because of the way I play, I'm going to fail a lot, and there's going to be a lot more failures than there is success. So it's just trying to stick to what I do and believe in what I do, um, and eventually those things will click, and I'll get a bit of luck here and there, and like I did against South Africa. Um, but yeah, it's tough, but you just do it.
I think you're maybe being a bit humble there because you refer to coming off 1 and 5. I mean, you've been doing it far more consistently than that in club cricket recently. Obviously, you're 2 out of 10 in T20 internationals, which is 1 and 5. But um, I feel like the way you play, putting a bowler under pressure, when you're playing a shot, you're generally playing 100% throwing the kitchen sink at it. So in theory, that should give you actually a better chance than most compared to if you're passive, letting the bowler settle. You know, you're not necessarily in any higher chance of having success when you are sort of that more passive approach. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, I'd like to see how that pans out because I feel like you're better than 1 and 5.
I think I always feel like if you don't go 100% of the shot, you've got more chance of getting out. Like any shot I play, I'll always throw 100% at it because I feel it's the right shot. And like at the end of the day, cricket's a lot on instinct. Like your instinct's telling you to play this shot, so why would you not go 100% at it? And some days you'll get a thin edge, and other days you'll get a thick, and it'll fly over the top of slips. And other days the tick will go straight to the keeper. But I don't see why you wouldn't go 100% at a shot if you think it's the right one.
So you briefly touched on it there in terms of how you deal with failure or how you experience failure. What's it like? Give us a bit of insight into what goes on for you. Say you've had a run of low scores. Are you the
Yeah.
type of player who will stew over it immediately after, or are you the type of person who likes to, try and get away from the thought and feeling maybe until you get a bit of time on your own?
No, I'll think about it for 10 minutes after the game. I'll maybe watch it back. What can I do better? And then it's gone. I can't do anything about it now. So what's the point of being all angry about it? Um, Definitely think a lot of people struggle with that, but it's something that I don't struggle with really at all. It's out of my mind half an hour after the game's over. And I don't like to be the guy who, you know, you could bat first innings and then you have to field, but people bring the fact that they got one off 5 balls in their batting innings into the field innings and then they're just sat the whole time. So uh yeah, it's just for me it's gone. And but like there's other things that come along with it. Like I think a lot of people had written me off after 8 international games. They were ready to stop giving me a chance anymore because of I got a 50 against Zimbabwe and then nearly a 50 against Austria. And people were ready to sack me off, which is quite ridiculous. And I'm glad coaches don't listen to people on Twitter. Uh, but yeah, it's just you obviously read things and you're like, oh, it's not very fair, and people will want you to fail, but and that's all right. They're obviously allowed their opinion, but um, I think that sort of wanting to prove people wrong gives me a lot of motivation, and something I enjoy doing is proving people wrong. So yeah, I've got that to work with, and you just get through it at the end of the day, and yeah.
You spent a period of the last few years managing both work commitments alongside your training for cricket. So, would you say there are any benefits from doing the hard slog of kind of, having to rush away from work to get to training, rush back to work, the challenges that you might have experienced there, also trying to get to the gym and do whatever other fitness stuff?
Yeah.
Are there benefits to the sort of challenges that you face there now that you're full time and, potentially you've got more time to be selective about what it is you do and how you manage your time?
Yeah, like obviously I was very lucky when I was working 9 to 5 and doing the whole cricket thing. My boss was incredibly understanding, and he's part of the reason why I'm full time now. So I owe him a lot. Um, it's tough, like it's hard, but I really, really wanted to do it. So um, I was willing to do anything to get it, and I just think you know if you really want it, you'll do pretty much anything to achieve it. Um, it's a lot easier now that I'm not working 9 to 5 and I'm in cricket full time. So, like you said, I can manage my time better, and I can hit more balls. I can spend more time on recovery. So I just think that uh, I'm in a lot better place now, probably mentally as well. So, um, yeah, I can really focus and work hard on my cricket rather than having to think about work as well. So,
Now, if you look back retrospectively over all your innings you've played, and it could be at any level, is there an innings, and I'm putting you on the spot here, but is there an innings that you'd say you're most proud of?
um, an innings I'm most proud of. Yeah, there's the obvious ones. You've obviously got the 100 against South Africa. My Challenge Cup 100 uh, against Civil actually. Um, that was good. I enjoyed that a lot because Georgeson was giving me dog's abuse when he was bowling at me. Uh, yeah, like there's obviously the big ones that stand out, but then you've got. I remember being a kid as a 13-year-old and hitting. I think I got 18 against Ballymena in a Section 1 game, and I thought I was the man coming off. So it's good. Like looking back on little scores like that, I'd say a lot of my core memories were in Section 1 and Section 2, and that's where you do a lot of your learning. Um, you know, playing against Gold Bull from Lurgan, hitting you all around the park and you chasing a full day. Um, Playing against pros that are very good, like good, very good Section 1 pros. Gold Bull, Alphalay was at Ballymena, you were at Samefield. Um, there's so many guys that you like watch and learn from such a young age, and I'd say some of my innings in Section 1 were really important. Um, but yeah, obviously the big ones stand out. But I think my 18 as a 13-year-old kid against Ballymena down at Seapark was one of my favorite knocks.
Awesome. Just finally, is there like where would you like to take your career? Like let's fast forward, say 10 years. You look back on your career, where what would you
I'd be
ideally like to
I'd be your age.
close, yeah, close. What would you look back on and be really satisfied with from an international career perspective?
Um, I don't know. I don't really know, to be honest. I haven't really thought about it too much. I would love to. I would love to end up somewhere near 100 caps if I could, across the ODIs and the T20s. I think I think Test matches probably might elude me, uh, but you never know. The Yeah, so I'd love to end up somewhere near 100 caps, and we'll see how some of the franchise stuff goes. I'd love to get into one of the Premier Leagues and have a good crack at it, and really test myself against some of the best players. And I fully believe I'm more than capable of that. So it'll be interesting to see what the next um 3 or 4 years takes me. And I'm looking forward to the whole challenge of the whole thing. So
I hope you found a little nugget in my conversation with Ross that got you thinking about how you might apply it to your game. If you'd like to discuss it, you can get in touch with me via our social media channels at Ellie's Batting Mentality on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. If you know our discussion will resonate with someone you know, then please share it. It helps us to grow the channel and get even bigger names on the pod. Until next time, folks, what one action are you taking today to give yourself the best chance of success in your next innings?